Hello everyone, Jesse Webb, Traders Pro. Market conditions, bullish in a bull market, remaining in that overall uptrend. Momentum stuck right in the middle of our bullish uptrend. Also have breadth indicator, which is still decidedly bullish at this location, up above 80, up in that extreme range, but not overly extreme right here. Although this indicator traditionally in the last 12 months, anytime we get up into this range, has proven to be a bit of a topping location. Now, we have shifted over into that bull market, so we are in this overall uptrend. Now, just as a reminder, this overall approach that we're utilizing is a top-down approach. So we want to start out with the overall market direction. So we're looking at this long-term overall uptrend. This is the 20-year chart of the S&P 500. We want to be focused on being in the market or being in equities when we have a shift to this upside. This uptrend, this uptrend, this uptrend. Okay. Now, during this last bull market, we've had, signals here that haven't lasted very long as far as downtrend signals. But that's why we, traders, we've got to be willing and able to shift our bias quickly. And so as those trends start to shift, then we want to participate in that overall uptrend. So we went through bear market. Now we're currently in a bull market on our indicator as of May. So we've been in this overall uptrend. Now we can look at individually in some of the shorter term signals and look for is the current trend and the overall momentum towards the upper end of the range, or is it in the middle? Okay, is it at an extreme, or is it trending one direction or the other? Okay, so in this case we have momentum, which is moving to the upside. It's in this bullish range. The chart for that is below. So this is a chart of the momentum, this slider bar to show you where you're at in this overall trend. And this is a chart of the S&P 500. So this chart here is an indication of this chart here. So we have this overall uptrend in momentum. Okay, so we're not in the upper extremes now, not at the bottom extreme. We're kind of stuck in that middle. So that's kind of that sweet spot, that buy zone. If we're too far to the upside, it just becomes unsustainable to be able to maintain that trend. If we're too far to the downside, obviously same story right there. We can't have continued selling forever, can't have continued upside forever either. So once they get to those extremes, we typically get a pullback. It typically pulls it back into this location, to this buy zone that we can have a little bit higher probability location. Now also on the sentiment towards the upside of that range, but also in the middle of that overall trend. So we then move from there and also look at the buy-sell ratio, which is essentially the database of stocks, how many stocks in the database have buys and how many have sells, and that creates a buy-sell ratio. In this case, it's 2.66. So visually looking at that chart, you can see that we have more buyers than we have sellers currently, or in this case, we have more stocks in uptrends than we do in downtrends. And that is essentially what we're looking for in terms of what the market is doing. Is do we have more things going up or more things going down? That's what the market is, and that's what's going to be moving the market. So when we start out these morning updates, we look at this overall big picture. What direction is the market moving? Are we at the upper end of the range? We certainly are at the upper end of the range of this rally. We know that. And then we can also look at what is the current sentiment as well. Now, sentiment on this chart is going to be very similar to sentiment on this chart as well in terms of momentum. And so that's what we want to be able to look at here as well, as that overall top-down approach. If we take a look at sectors, we've got leading sectors: construction, transportation, aerospace, and then indexes. We have a couple of different areas on the index tab where you can focus on just a quick glance of market ETFs. So what are these current markets doing? So we know that tech, which is the Qs, has been a leader year to date, up 44%. Russell 1000 and 2000 and 3000, all small and mid cap stocks, have also done really well in terms of the overall percentage. Just a quick glance at that, and then also the index scan here. This is going to tell us which stocks inside of those indices are also in uptrends. So we can look NASDAQ 100. We've got 46 stocks. stocks in that group. We can take a look to see which ones are leading. Obviously, we know some of these names, NVIDIA, Norwegian, Lam Research, Applied Material. Ross Stores is interesting. Marriott, Google, Apple, some of the other, some of the bellwether names are going to show up in there as well. So we can focus on what sector is working. So we have leading sector well, we were looking at the NASDAQ 100. We know the NASDAQ 100 is leader, and these are the leading stocks inside of the NASDAQ 100. That could be our overall approach to begin with. What direction's the market moving? What sectors are moving the strongest? And then which stocks inside of those sectors are also the strongest? So we can go into sectors and look and say, and click on any one of these and say, all right, let's look at construction, that top 76 stocks. Here, I'm actually going to come back and go to here and try that one more time on construction. So we've got a lot of these home builders which have just really been skyrocketing in a way. Beazer Home, which has been doing really well, had a gap higher. A couple of these stocks reported earnings this last week. Pulte Homes, I believe, as well. So interesting that we're seeing just such a really strong overall uptrend in a lot of these residential builders, but that trend is still intact. As of now, you're seeing, a lot of these big earnings that these companies have had may have been anticipated as things are moving higher, and so we may be towards the upper end of some of these trends. As well as they potentially could shift into something different. We'll see how that works out. Current muscle stocks group. Now again, the muscle stocks tab and then muscle stocks name. These are just the strongest stocks. So muscle, like if flexing a muscle or a muscle car, these are the strongest leading stocks inside of these groups. Now obviously there's a lot of stocks in that list. So from there, if you decided, hey, here's the kind of stocks I really want to focus on, but I want to add additional criteria, down here at the bottom, you've got the current criteria set for those. But inside your screener, you can go in and you can really pinpoint, you can knock out, you can set up those exact scenarios, that exact setting as the muscle stock scan. But then here I can add other things. If I want fundamental information in there, if I want market cap or volume or any other criteria to weed this out, to get less stocks in this group. Or you can just simply say, I'm going to be focusing on the top 10 stocks of that group. The muscle stocks list are the stocks that are the strongest, and so you're getting some really strong movers. In fact, this is one that's an interesting stock because you get this muscle stock group as they're moving higher and you get a retracement back down again. This is a buy the dip market. These markets are currently in a buy the dip momentum uptrend that may be coming to a close or at least a pause right here at these areas, but it's a very, very strong market, so we could continue to see significant upside. So as you're scanning through and you're looking at the muscle stocks group, these upper stocks that are in this uptrend, they're going to be very volatile, so you're going to get a lot of swings, a lot of ups and downs, but as they really start to move and then you can get a pullback, you've got opportunities as these stocks are falling back into an overall buy zone, and that's the setup that we want to see. We want to see short-term, long-term, and then our signal back into the buy, and we want to see the stock moving this direction. Okay, ideally we want to see a pullback in a stock that's moving that direction. So this is an example of exactly what we would want to see on a strong stock moving higher as we're getting new confirmation bars. Now this got a new buy confirmation bar yesterday. It wasn't in the new buy list. Now remember, anything in the new buy list is only going to show up if it's gone from a hold to a buy. Okay, this tab right here. So if I go to the muscle stocks group, some of these may not have new buy signals, but that's okay. I can go through, I can set up another scan to find those and pull those out if I want to, or I can just go through and I can glance at these each day and see which ones are still relatively close to new buy zones. You can see there's actually quite a few of those in there today. SMCI, I did an update on that last week. That stock's really been a really consistent high-flying stock for quite some time, really the last year and a half, and it's had some ups and downs along the way. We talk about that in a lot of the trainings is why at what point should I be selling, right? And so we give an indication of a trend shift and a reversal, but sometimes those don't work. But what other methodology might work in terms of where am I going to sell? Because there's lots of situations where stocks they get that new downtrend and they just continue to drop off the table and fall even lower. That's not what we want. So we want to be able to cut our losses quickly if it is going to continue to reverse. In this case, it would have come back and then continue that uptrend. So what do? We are, traders are consistent traders should be very, very willing to flip flop their position or flip flop their ideology pretty quickly in terms of trend. Okay, in terms of is the stock moving higher or lower? I don't have to be right. I don't necessarily want to be right. I don't care if I'm right. I just want to be on the right side of the trade. So I've got to be willing, if the trade's moving in the wrong direction, to be able to cut the losses and then potentially reverse and jump back into something as well. That's an example on that. Let's jump back over here and we'll finish up today on the new buy list. CABA, this has been a stock on this 1-year chart that has had a pretty consistent, nice uptrend. It's back in the buy zone. It's in that medical biotech space, and it is one that potentially could be approaching a breakout zone right here around that $14 range. And let's take a look at some of the others in here. FNGR, we just looked at that one. That one's one that certainly want to use some caution on some of these stocks. They move quickly in both directions, but they show up in the scans, and those are the ones that people are focusing on. They're the ones that are have got a lot of eyeballs on them, so we want to be aware of those stocks. BT, tech stock showing up here as number 3 in the group. Confirmation buy bar here, relatively inexpensive stock, $4.5, $5. MOD is one also that had a big gap and started moving higher. It's interesting. It's an auto truck part company. So we're seeing lots of movement in transportations, and we've seen a big rally in transportation. This stock is participating as well. Got a really nice confirmation bar on it today, or yesterday rather, right at support, and a bounce moving higher with early in that trend too. Ideally, we want to find these stocks that are early in that buy zone, and they've come out of that hold range and they're moving this direction. And that's what that stock has done there as well. So let's see if that, we've got one or two others. Big move here on SYM. When we see that and it moves up to that extreme range, typically we want to use some caution, wait for it to pull back inside of that buy zone. VRNA, a little bit of more of a sloppy, volatile chart right there. So some other ones to look at there. ACHR, aerospace stock up 40%. Interesting chart. So that'll do it for today's update. Everyone have a fantastic day today.